After graduating from college, I took out a loan and built the only pumping station in the village. For 8 years I charged nothing but the basic electricity cost, just to keep the orchards alive through every dry season. Then my own uncle and an agricorp had me reported. They accused me of stealing power and siphoning water. They forced me to hand over control, so I signed the voluntary liability waiver and asset division agreement. I took back what was mine, the high-torque industrial pump motor. I headed to the outskirts of the city and built a fully automated eco-farm. Then came the Great Drought, and the villagers, staring at sky-high water bills and hillsides full of dead trees, pinned my dear Uncle Harold face down in the dirt. It had started simply enough. I had just finished cleaning the pump filter when Uncle Harold walked into the pump room, flanked by Derek and a group of strangers clutching briefcases. The moment Harold stepped in, his face twisted into a scowl. What a piece of junk! So much noise! Eli, how old is this pump? The efficiency is terrible. The water trickles out like a leaky faucet. Are you throttling the supply on purpose? Aunt Rosa had just arrived with her empty buckets to queue up. She set down her shoulder pole at once. Our village sits high up. Getting water pumped up here at all isn't easy. 8 years and Eli has only ever charged us the bare electricity cost. Cut him some slack. Just open the gate and let the water through, Harold sneered. You say you only charge for electricity. Then why did my family pay 60 yuan last month? You going to tell me you didn't skim anything off the top? Or secretly sell water to the next village over? I kept my voice flat. Your orchard sits at the highest point on the mountain. Pumping water that high costs more power. The ledgers are posted right there on the wall. Can't you read them yourself? I can't make sense of your fake books. All I know is you've been robbing these people. He turned to the crowd. Listen up, everyone. This is Manager Victor from Greenflow AgriCorp in the city. He says if we just hand over this broken down operation to their company, they'll upgrade everything, free of charge, to smart irrigation systems. The men and women hauling water nearby heard the commotion and crowded in around us. Manager Victor cleared his throat. Friends and neighbors, modern farming is all about precision drip irrigation. This outdated setup should have been replaced long ago. Hand it over to us and we'll replace everything at no cost. You'll be able to water your fields from your phone, right at home. Aunt Rosa, who had been smiling warmly at me just moments before, heard the words, free upgrade, and her eyes slid away from mine. The other villagers began murmuring among themselves. A free upgrade? That sounds amazing. Honestly, this pump is ancient. It cuts out all the time. Harold has seen how the world works out there. He wouldn't steer us wrong. I looked at those familiar faces, the same people I had gone out in the pouring rain at midnight to repair the lines for, the ones whose orchards I had saved. I watched their expressions shift from hesitation to eager hope, and then something colder crept into the looks they gave me. Suspicion, contempt. The wrench in my hand went cold. The next morning, before dawn had even broken, I was still in bed when the village loudspeaker crackled to life. Uncle Harold's voice boomed out, grave and official, calling every villager to a meeting at the community hall. The agenda: remove Eli Stone from control of the water supply, usher in modernization. By the time I got there, the courtyard was already packed. Harold stood on the steps, a stack of printed papers in his hand. Neighbors, water is the lifeblood of this village. We can't let one man hold it hostage and bleed us dry. The village chief strolled over, hands clasped behind his back. Eli, you can see how everyone feels. This push for agricultural modernization, you need to think about the bigger picture. And your uncle says that if you don't hand over the keys, Greenflow won't come in. They're afraid you'll sabotage the deal. Chief, I said. For 8 years, every time a part broke, I paid for it myself. Every time a pipe burst in the dead of winter, I jumped into ice-cold water to fix it. I never took a single cent of subsidy from this village. And now you want to drive me out? The chief sighed. Times change. They've got the tech of a major corporation behind them. What can one person do? Don't be so stubborn. I looked out at the hundreds of people filling that courtyard. Not one of them stood up for me. Even Aunt Rosa, who had praised my hard work just yesterday, turned her face away. My heart went stone cold. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the voluntary liability waiver and asset division agreement I had written through the night, and slapped it on the chief's table. Fine. Sign over the keys. Since everyone thinks I've been stealing and that the company is so great, sign this, every one of you, thumbprint and all. From this day forward, the water supply of this village has nothing to do with me. Whatever drought comes, whatever floods, whatever the water rates do, you're on your own. Fine, we'll sign. Don't think for a second that without you, the whole village will die of thirst. Harold pressed his thumbprint down first, then Derek, then Aunt Rosa. The whole village lined up, terrified of missing out on their free smart irrigation upgrade, each one scrawling their name in a rush. I looked at those pages covered in red thumbprints. Something heavy that had been sitting in my chest finally cracked apart. It dissolved into pure relief. I folded the agreement away, turned, and walked to the pump room. Harold and his crew followed me like I was a thief. I pushed the door open, picked up my wrench, and walked straight to the far end of the engine room. In front of everyone's stunned faces, I disconnected the high-torque industrial pump motor and lifted it free. That motor was the only reason this old pump could push water all the way up the back mountain. I had paid a fortune for it through my own connections. It was my personal property, though they had always dismissed it as a beat-up old machine. Derek panicked immediately. Hey, watch out! Eli is sabotaging the station. Stop him. Don't let him steal village property. Several villagers rushed to block the door. I let out a cold cold laugh and flung down the original receipt for the motor along with the agreement we had just signed. Open your eyes and look carefully. I paid 80,000 yuan of my own money for this motor. My name is printed on that receipt in black and white. And the agreement we just signed also states clearly that I am entitled to remove my personal assets. The building, the pipes, I haven't touched a single bolt. The room fell silent. Harold's face went iron gray, but staring at that document, he couldn't squeeze out a single word. I heaved the old grease-covered motor up off the pump base, soaked in sweat by the time it came free. The casing was battered and the paint long gone. But anyone who knew machines knew what this was. An early copper-wound heavy-duty industrial motor, built to last. I had bought it to push water from the valley floor all the way up to the highest orchard in the village. I had traveled to 3 different cities scouring second-hand equipment markets before I found it, and paid every bit of those 80,000 yuan to haul it home. In the 8 years since, no matter how badly the voltage fluctuated, no matter how long the pumping ran, this old workhorse never once let me down. The motor weighed over 200 kilograms. I couldn't lift it alone. I had to slide it across wooden boards and inch it up into the truck bed. The rough rope bit into my palms. Sweat ran into my eyes and stung. I instinctively glanced up toward the door. Dozens of villagers had gathered in the open ground outside the pump room. Aunt Rosa, the old men and women, and all those familiar faces I had gone out in the rain at midnight to help, repairing their irrigation pipes by hand. They all stood in the shadow of the old locust tree. Not one of them stepped forward to help me. Not even a polite word to ask me to stay. They held their noses, as if they were afraid the smell of engine oil might rub off on them. Their eyes made no effort to hide their contempt and suspicion. Derek was right there filming me on his phone without stopping. Well, take it easy there, Eli. Don't throw your back out, hauling that pile of junk. Come on, everyone, look at this. This right here is the so-called water tyrant of our village who conned us all with this busted industrial motor for 8 straight years. The thing is nothing but a stench of rotten engine grease. You think our orchards can thrive on water pumped through something like that? No wonder our fruit has been selling so poorly. This is the root of the problem. Exactly. Harold is right. That water is probably full of heavy metals. Should have been replaced ages ago. I've always hated how loud that thing is. Can't even nap at noon with all that racket. Get it out of here, it's an eyesore. Uncle Harold strolled out of the crowd, hands clasped behind his back, like a general who had just won a great battle. He had put on a brand new shirt for the occasion. His pockets bulged, and you could just make out the outline of several packs of premium cigarettes. The promotional fee that Greenflow's people had just stuffed into his hands. All right, Derek, put the phone away, he snorted. Tell him to hurry up and get out. Eli, he said in the tone of a man offering wisdom, I'm not trying to be hard on you, but you're just stuck in the past. Greenflow is bringing in premium smart equipment from the city tomorrow. Full stainless steel casing, multi-layer deep filtration. The water will be cleaner and better than anything your machine ever produced. A major corporation managing everything, and the rates will be half of your so-called cost price. Neighbors, the water we use from now on will meet the same standards as drinking water in the city. No more standing at the valve at midnight. One tap on your phone and the fields water themselves. You know what that's called? Agricultural IoT. Our village is about to get rich. The villagers lapped it up, grinning ear to ear, their eyes already seeing the autumn harvest dripping with gold. A young man spat in front of my truck's tire and waved me off, impatient for me to leave so the company's construction trucks could get in. I dusted the rust off my hands and looked at these people who thought they were so clever. My heart had gone completely cold. The agreement was sitting in the village office in black and white. Whatever happened to them from here on out, it had nothing to do with me. I said it flat and cold, pulled open the truck door, and floored it. I left Harold's laughter and the villagers' mockery far behind. Once I was clear of that place, I drove straight to the outskirts of the city. I knew what I had in that motor. To anyone else, it was a pile of rusty junk, but in the hands of someone who truly understood agriculture, it could be a lifesaver. I spent 3 full days scouting the outskirts of the city until I found a stretch of wasteland. Over 100 acres. The rent was absurdly cheap, and for one reason only, drought. The water table was deep, and ordinary agricultural pumps couldn't draw water from it. Even if they could, the flow was barely a trickle, nowhere near enough for 100 acres. Every previous tenant had lost everything trying to solve the water problem, and slunk away with nothing. I didn't care. The first thing I did after signing the lease was hire a drilling crew to sink a deep well. Then I set that grease-covered copper-wound heavy-duty industrial motor solidly into its base. The moment I threw the breaker switch, the motor let out a deep, powerful roar, like a beast waking from a long sleep. Then a column of water as thick as a man's arm blasted up from dozens of meters below the earth. With water taken care of, everything else fell into place. I drew on 8 years of farming knowledge combined with the power of high-volume irrigation to plant organic cherries and shine muscat grapes on that cheap red soil. My life hit fast forward, moving steadily toward a big harvest with each passing day. Meanwhile, back in the village, everyone was lost in the hollow excitement of modernization. Greenflow had hauled in a shiny new pump, wrapped in a gleaming stainless steel casing, plastered all over with colorful agricultural IoT stickers. It came with a large LCD touchscreen and looked at least 100 times more impressive than my old motor. As the man who had brought in the investment, Harold became the village celebrity overnight. Greenflow needed to keep their local fixer happy, so they paid him a generous kickback and handed him the subcontract for laying pipes in the village. For a while, Harold was on top of the world. He strutted around the village every day with his little satchel, playing the big boss contractor. With the money he made from selling out his own people, he bought piles of red bricks and cement and started building himself a 3-story house with a big rooftop terrace right in the most prominent spot in the village. The villagers shouldered their hoes and gazed hopefully at the new black plastic pipes laid across their fields. Give one a squeeze and it collapsed flat, the walls no thicker than paper, but according to Harold, that was aerospace-grade polymer material. Everyone dreamed of striking it rich, believing they would soon enjoy clean, cheap premium water just like city folk, without lifting a finger. What they didn't know was that everything that looks free in this world has already been quietly tagged with a steep price. The dream shattered on the day the first water bill came due. It was late May, the critical window when fruit trees flower and set fruit, and water demand was climbing fast. Greenflow's billing agent dragged a table out and plopped himself down in the community hall courtyard. Next to him stood a new QR code sign. Attention villagers, please come to the community hall as soon as possible to pay this month's water fees and activate your smart IC water card, or your irrigation service will be suspended. Aunt Rosa was one of the first to show up, clutching a few crumpled bills, still wearing the cheerful grin of someone who thinks they've gotten a bargain. Young man, my plot is on the mid-slope, just 2 acres. Back when Eli was running things, I never paid more than 12 or 13 yuan a month in electricity fees. Harold told everyone, this premium water would cost half of what we used to pay. I've brought 10 yuan for today. That should cover this month, right? The billing agent was a young guy with dyed yellow hair. He didn't look up. He chewed his gum, swiped Aunt Rosa's card with 2 quick beeps, tapped at the keyboard, and the machine spat out a receipt over 3 feet long. Rosa, right? Your bill for this month is ready. 248 yuan total. Scan the code or cash. If you don't pay in full, your card gets cut off tomorrow. The smile froze on Aunt Rosa's face. The crumpled bills nearly slipped from her fingers. She thought she had misheard. Her knees almost buckled. How much? 240? Kid, did you misplace the decimal? This is robbery. I only have 2 acres. Aunt Rosa's voice shot up into a shriek. Every villager in line went dead silent. The yellow-haired agent rolled his eyes dramatically and jabbed his pen at the dense rows of line items on the receipt. Lady, even if you can't read, you need to be reasonable. It's all right there in black and white. Look at line 1. The base water rate is genuinely cheap. 1 yuan per ton. Cheaper than whatever Eli used to charge. But this is a modern smart pipe network. You can't just count the water. Line 2, Smart Platform Network Service Fee, 30 yuan per month. Line 3, PE Pipeline Depreciation and Maintenance Fee, 80% yuan per month. Line 4, because your village is on a hill, there's a tiered pressurization surcharge, 60% yuan. Plus the smart water meter rental fee, trace mineral additive fee. Add it all up, and that's your total. And this is after our rural subsidy discount. Think it's too expensive? Then you shouldn't have signed and pressed your thumbprint. Think it's too expensive? Then don't tap the card and get lost. The tap is on your own land. Nobody's forcing you to use it. Those words landed like a hard slap across the entire village's face. The news spread instantly. Everyone was stunned. Back when I was running things, the motor was mine, the pipes were ones I repaired myself. I charged nothing but the exact state grid rate for pumping power, not a single extra fee. Now Greenflow had arrived and pulled every trick in the corporate playbook, split billing, hidden surcharges, fees invented out of thin air. When you added it all up, the cost per acre had multiplied dozens of times over, and then some. The village exploded. Everyone was furious. The women who would argue at the market for half an hour over a few cents were now bleeding inside. Hundreds of people surged into the center of the village and surrounded Harold's half-built house 3 rings deep. Harold, you selfish son of a, get out here and explain yourself. You said it would cost half as much. Now watering our fields costs more than buying rice. Did you team up with that company to rob us? Harold was upstairs on the 2nd floor, admiring his rooftop terrace. He saw the mob below, quickly straightened his shirt, and put on his dignified act as he stepped out. Inside, he was rattled. He had only just learned about the billing scheme himself, but he had taken 50,000 yuan from them, and now he had no choice but to keep up the act. What are you all shouting about? How can you be so short-sighted? This is a major company from the provincial capital. Yes, the stainless steel pump, the pipes in your fields. Do you have any idea how much they invested up front? Of course they need to recoup that. Stop fixating on the water bills. You need to look at the bigger picture. That water has nutrients added to it. It goes through high-tech filtration. This is an investment. Spend a few hundred more on water now, and by autumn your fruit will be big and bright. Sell it to the big city supermarkets for an extra 2 or 3 yuan per pound. What are a few water bills compared to that? You'll earn it back 10 times over. But if you pinch pennies and skip the watering, your fruit will come out no bigger than walnuts, and that will be your own fault for being short-sighted. The villagers were half convinced by Harold's blend of truth and lies. Their hearts ached, but they looked at the pipes already laid in the ground, thought about the contracts they had already signed, and realized there was no way out. After all, the old motor was gone. I had taken it. Greenflow had sealed the well. There was nothing they could do. Everyone swallowed their anger and gritted their teeth. To save money, the villagers started scraping by. Fields that should have been soaked now got 10-minute trickles, just enough to dampen the surface before they yanked their cards. What used to be watered every 10 days was now stretched to 15 or even 20. Trees don't lie. When water runs short, the leaves start yellowing and curling at the edges. The small fruits on the branches stalled at the size of a coin and stopped growing. The whole village sank into a heavy, anxious silence. All they could do was pray quietly for more rain this year to spare them from those brutal sky-high water bills. What they didn't know was that the sky shows no mercy. A once-in-a-century drought, the kind that could wipe out everything, was already closing in. By mid-July it had arrived, 45 straight days without a single drop of rain. The little creek the villagers used for washing clothes had dried up 2 weeks earlier, leaving nothing but cracked riverbed. Even the mudfish had shriveled to husks. In a normal year at this time, this was the most critical stretch for fruit development. Not a single day could go without water. But this year, because of Greenflow's blood-sucking tiered pricing, no one dared water freely. The first to suffer was Aunt Rosa's plot on the mid-slope. Her 2 acres of apple trees, the family's entire livelihood, had leaves that were yellowing and curling from the edges. Brush one with your fingers and it crumbled to dust. The green fruits on the branches, which should have been the size of walnuts by now, had shriveled into dry, leathery shells around the pit. The slightest touch, and they rained down in a shower. Aunt Rosa dropped down onto the scorching earth at the edge of the field and wailed, slapping her thighs. "It's over! It's all over! God above! Are you trying to kill us?" This harvest was supposed to pay for my husband's dialysis treatments for the rest of the year. It was supposed to pay my grandson's school fees when he starts middle school this fall. I still owe the credit union 20,000 yuan for fertilizer. If we don't get water soon, and these trees die, my whole family has nothing left to live for. Rosa's cries tore through the air like a signal and completely shattered what was left of the village's resolve. Someone at the edge of the village screamed, "Forget it! Even if it bankrupts us, we have to save the trees." Hundreds of families went wild, stampeding toward their orchards. Eyes red and frantic, they grabbed the smart icy water cards they had once treated as symbols of progress and pressed them to the card readers with trembling hands. The beeping of cards echoed across every parched hillside without stop. Hundreds of valves were wrenched to full open all at once. Every pair of eyes strained toward those black PE plastic pipes in the fields, waiting for the precious water to flow. Instead, the pipes let out a series of dull, hollow gurgles. Then each valve spat out 2 weak mouthfuls of muddy water mixed with silt and went completely dead. Not another drop. What's happening? Where's the water? I just loaded 800 yuan onto my card. My pipes don't have any pressure at all. There's not even air coming through. The villagers panicked like ants on a burning griddle, threw down their hose and ran toward the main pump room downhill. Before they even got close, everyone could smell it. A sharp, acrid burning stench from electrical insulation melted clean through. Inside the newly built pump room, Greenflow's gleaming aluminum-cased pump was now emitting a deep, labored drone. The whole unit radiated heat you could feel from across the room. Back when I was in charge, the copper-wound heavy-duty industrial motor had real power and high torque. Even with every acre in the village drawing water at once, it could push deep groundwater all the way to the mountain peak without flinching. But Greenflow, in their drive to cut costs and squeeze out profit, had brought in a so-called high-tech pump that was nothing but a badly assembled unit with a wildly inflated power rating. Under normal use, with just a dozen or so households taking turns with drip irrigation, it barely managed to cope. Now, with hundreds of valves wide open across the whole village, the pressure in the pipe network collapsed instantly. The shoddy motor was thrown into extreme overload. "Kill the main switch, cut the power now. It's going to blow," but it was already too late. A deep, violent blast tore out from inside the pump room, followed by a chain of blinding blue sparks crackling through black smoke. The premium pump Harold had praised to the heavens was completely destroyed, and with it, the hopes of every family in the village were blown to pieces. The very next morning, manager Victor, Greenflow's regional director, rolled into the village in a brand new black sedan at a leisurely pace. He stepped out and used the gleaming tip of his leather shoe to casually kick at the scorched heap of scrap metal that used to be the pump. Harold rushed up to him like a man greeting his own father. "Manager Victor, thank goodness you're here. The machine blew yesterday, not a drop of water getting through. You can see how bad this drought is. The trees can't wait. Get the company to send a crew with a new machine." "Replace the machine? Harold, are you out of your mind? Go read the manual. When the company set up your cards, you were warned repeatedly, this precision equipment must never be run at full load simultaneously. That is a serious violation. This is deliberate destruction of agricultural IoT equipment worth over 100,000 yuan. Wrecked by a bunch of country bumpkins, and now you want a free replacement? Who do you think we are? A charity?" The villagers erupted. "What do you mean we broke it? It's a drought. Of course everyone needs to water at once. That old pump Eli ran. Handled hundreds of families at the same time and never broke down. Your machine is clearly a cheap counterfeit." "Exactly. We paid all those maintenance fees. The irrigation equipment breaks and you won't even fix it? Shut up. You want to talk law? Fine. Then we go by the contract. The equipment was destroyed by your own unauthorized use. You want the water back on? Here's what you do. First, every household contributes to cover the damage compensation and the cost of purchasing and installing a new pump. 300,000 yuan total. Second, to prevent further unauthorized damage, the projected water fees, pipe network maintenance, and platform service fees for the second half of the year, 200,000 yuan, must be prepaid in full to the company account. 500,000 yuan total. Corporate wire transfer. Payment received, pump replaced, short by even 1 yuan, and you can watch your hillside orchards turn to firewood. 500,000 yuan. That number landed like an invisible mountain, crushing every villager's chest. The crowd went deathly quiet. The sky-high water bills from the past few months had already drained what little savings they had. Now they were behind on payments for pesticides and fertilizer at the supply store. 500,000? Even 50,000 yuan. They couldn't scrape it together if they sold everything they owned. Manager Victor, this isn't repairing a pump. This is killing us. That's not what we were told when we signed the contract. Harold swore your company provided after-sales service and covered repairs if anything broke. Several villagers turned their eyes to Harold. Harold was panicking too. He had the largest orchard. Every day without water cost him thousands. He grabbed Victor's sleeve without a shred of dignity. Victor, come on, we sat down together over dinner. That's not what you told me. You bought cheap equipment to pocket the difference. How can you dump all of this on the villagers? You're setting me up. Setting you up? Victor yanked his arm free and pulled another contract from his briefcase, covered in fresh red thumbprints, and slapped it across Harold's face. Everyone, look carefully. Your man Harold here, in exchange for 100,000 yuan in promotional kickbacks from the company, voluntarily signed on as joint liability guarantor in this shadow contract. Clause 7, subsection 3 is perfectly clear. Should the village collective cause equipment damage through unauthorized operation and fail to pay the compensation, Greenflow reserves the right to pursue the guarantor, Harold, directly for full recovery. Of pairs of eyes that had been drowning in despair snapped instantly to Harold. His face went white as paper. He was shaking so hard he could barely stand. He had been so focused on pocketing that 100,000 in cash to build his mansion that he had never once read the contract terms. He had just pressed his happy little thumbprint down without a care. You're lying. That was a promotional fee. I had no idea what joint liability even meant. Didn't understand it? There it is in black and white with your fingerprint right next to it. Go tell the judge you didn't understand. You have 3 days to come up with the 500,000 yuan. If the money isn't there in 3 days, the legal department's lawsuit and the court seizure order will be delivered directly to Harold. Manager Victor got in his car and left, leaving hundreds of villagers at the peak of their fury, closing in around Harold and his son. Harold was screamed at on his own doorstep for a full day and night. The 2 floors of Harold's red brick house were smashed into rubble. The villagers lit a bonfire outside and delivered their ultimatum. Harold, 3 days. If you can't come up with a 500,000, if every tree in this village dies of drought, we'll burn whatever's left of this house to the ground first. Cornered and desperate, Derek was hiding upstairs, not even daring to open a window. Dad, we can't just sit here. These farmers will actually kill us. Our village has no water, but Eli does. I heard from the guys who deliver produce to the city. Eli leased that wasteland outside the city. He turned it into some kind of eco-farm. If we call him and get him back here, we won't have to pay that 500,000. Right. Call Eli. I'm his blood uncle. Family is family. He can't just stand by and watch his uncle get buried alive. At that very moment, far away in the penthouse ballroom of the city's finest hotel, I am standing in a perfectly fitted bespoke suit, beneath blazing crystal chandeliers. This is the venue for the Provincial Modern Agriculture and Supply Chain Integration Summit. As the city's flagship enterprise, I have just signed a 30 million yuan annual exclusive supply agreement with the country's largest fresh produce retail chain. I hold a glass of champagne and chat with the executive president of the retail group across from me. Then my personal phone vibrates in my pocket. Still holding my champagne, I turn and step into the quiet, very important person lounge outside the ballroom and press the answer button. What is it? It's a disaster back in the village. Greenflow's pump blew up. The water has been cut for 2 days. Every tree in the village is dying. People are crowding outside our gate. Eli, bring that old motor back and save us. Just get the water running again. Whatever happened before, we'll wipe the slate clean. You set the water rates. Exactly. Eli, your uncle knows he was wrong. He was blinded by greed back then. That rotten company deceived him. You can't just leave us to die. I'm your uncle. If you don't come back, these people are going to bury me alive. I cut him off. Harold, are you getting old? Your memory is worse than a dog's. The day I left the village in front of hundreds of people who led the charge pressing thumbprints on that voluntary liability waiver and asset division agreement, you called me a thief. You said I was making dirty money. For 100,000 yuan kickback, you threw me out like trash without a second thought and ran straight to kiss that corporation's boots. When I walked out, it was in black and white from that day forward. The village water supply has nothing to do with me. Eli, you can't be this heartless. Can you live with yourself if hundreds of people die? Stop using the villagers' lives to blackmail me. When they pressed those thumbprints down, did any one of them hesitate for even a second? I hang up without hesitation and block the number. Then I push open the door. The ballroom erupts in applause. The business elite celebrating a deal well made, dozens of kilometers away. In those parched hills, the villagers have seized Harold and forced his thumbprint onto a document, stripping him of his last orchard and the ruins of his house as compensation. Dad, I've got an idea. We sneak into Eli's farm tonight and take back that old motor, install it, and by morning the whole village has water. Who's going to come after us then? They'll probably thank us for saving everyone. Derek's twisted logic somehow lit a flicker of desperate hope in Harold's eyes. With trembling hands, Harold dug out his last few thousand yuan from inside his shirt pocket and pressed it into Derek's hands. Derek, wait until the guards doze off in the dead of night, slip out through the back window, Go to town and find a few guys with nerve. Get that motor back no matter what. That same night, at 2 in the morning, Derek paid handsomely to hire 2 men from town who had nothing better to do than cause trouble. They loaded into a van and crept up to the outer perimeter of my Sky Eye Eco Farm on the edge of the city. In their minds, the farm was probably just a ring of wire fencing and a flimsy watchman's shack. Snip the wire, hoist the motor into the van, and nobody would ever know. What they had no idea about was that this was no longer a simple rural orchard. This was a fully modernized agricultural technology company worth over 10 million yuan. Derek grabbed a heavy-duty hydraulic cutter and snipped through the outer perimeter fence with 2 sharp clicks. Then he led his 2 hired hands straight toward the standalone climate-controlled pump room at the center of the farm. Move it. That's the copper wound motor. I know it by the base. Get the bolts off and carry it out. But the moment one of the thugs locks his wrench onto the motor's bolt, all 16 high-intensity security floodlights above the farm blaze on at once. The blinding white light turns night into noon. Derek and his crew scream out in pain. They throw their hands over their eyes. Then the top-level security alarm tears through the air, shattering the quiet suburban night, loud enough to rattle bones. Before Derek and his crew can even recover from the blinding light, more than a dozen security guards in matching black uniforms close in from every direction, locking them in a tight circle. Don't move! Derek is scared out of his mind. His legs give out. He drops straight to his knees in the muddy grass. 15 minutes later, Derek is taken away by the police. Before they leave, I step out in my silk loungewear, flanked by my assistant and the security chief, walking out of the office building without a trace of urgency. The moment Derek sees me, he grabs onto my presence like a drowning man clutching a lifeline and screams at the top of his lungs. Eli, tell them who I am. I'm your brother. I just came to take a look at the equipment. That's not stealing. We're family. I turn to the officers, calm and composed. Officers, I am Eli Stone, legal representative of Sky Eye Agricultural Technology. This is our company's legal counsel. He will fully cooperate with your investigation on behalf of the company. Behind me, Legal Director Zhang steps forward immediately, holding out a thick hard drive and several documents stamped with official red seals. Officers, good evening. This is the full coverage surveillance footage and the equipment asset valuation report. The component they attempted to forcibly remove, this high-torque industrial pump motor, is not an ordinary piece of farm equipment. It is a patented core power component developed exclusively by our company. Its assessed book value is 400,000 yuan. These individuals destroyed security installations, arrived with specialized tools, and attempted a forced removal. This constitutes a clear case of attempted armed burglary. Furthermore, because the asset in question is a core component of our operations, removing it would cut off the water supply to over 1,000 acres of crops, leaving them to wither and die. The potential economic losses run into the millions. This is not a minor public order offense. This is a serious, egregious criminal act with massive consequences, a deliberate attempt to sabotage a company's operations. I look at Derek. Save the excuses for later. Take him in. Ray, you heartless snake. You'll get what's coming to you. News of Derek's criminal detention reaches the village by the next morning. For Uncle Harold, already teetering on the edge of collapse, it hits like a thunderbolt. Desperate to scrape together money for a lawyer to get his son out, and crushed under pressure from both the villagers and Greenflow AgriCorp demanding repayment, he tears every last apple off the hillside, fruit that never properly ripened, so worthless even birds won't touch it. He fills 3 full truckloads and hauls the whole mess to the city's largest fresh produce wholesale market, hoping for a miracle. In his limited understanding of the world, the city has enough people. Drop the price low enough and some bargain hunting dealer will bite. What he doesn't know is that the times have long since moved on, and he has no idea that the market's biggest core supplier is the very person he personally drove out of the village. Me. That morning, the Jiangnan fresh produce market roars with activity. Harold stands in the middle of the trading hall, beaten down and disheveled, clutching the sleeve of a suited supermarket procurement manager and refusing to let go. Manager Lu, sir, please, have a heart and take them off my hands. These are all natural hillside apples. Sure, the drought made them a bit small this year, but the price is rock bottom. I'm not selling by the box, by the pound, 30 cents, no, 20 cents a pound. Whatever you feel like paying, just take the whole truck. Manager Lu pulls free and sneers. Old man, did you wander into the wrong place? You think the top fresh produce market in the province is a junkyard? Garbage that pigs wouldn't touch? And you want shelf space here? You'd destroy our entire chain's reputation. Nearby vendors and cold chain drivers stop to stare, breaking into laughter and pointing fingers. Exactly. Old man, have you lost your mind over money? Can't you see what the market actually wants? Open your eyes and look around. Harold follows Manager Lu's pointed finger and looks up. On a massive screen looping overhead, a sleek corporate promotional video plays. The footage shows a fully automated irrigation system catching sunlight, scattering tiny rainbows across the fields. Integrated fertigation pipelines feed every inch of soil with precision. Cluster after cluster of plump, flawless shine muscat grapes glow under the camera, radiating a vibrancy that makes your mouth water just from looking. Then, at the end of the video, bold gold letters appear on screen. Sky Eye Agritech Group, founder, Eli Stone. Harold's whole body jolts. His legs nearly buckle. See that? Sky Eye's organic produce, now that's what sells. It gets bought up at premium prices before it even leaves the tree. Your 3 trucks of garbage? Nobody wants it even for free. Manager Lu waves him off like a fly and turns to leave. Then his entire face transforms, fawning, almost reverent, as he rushes toward the glass-walled corridor above the trading floor. It's the VIP meeting suite the market reserves for its top-tier clients. Harold stares blankly in that direction. Through the floor-to-ceiling soundproof glass, he sees a group of sharp-suited executives seated around a long mahogany table. And at the head of the table is me. Across the noise and chaos of the trading floor, Harold's eyes meet mine. I don't smile like a victor. I don't glare with anger. I simply look at him. One brief, utterly calm glance. The way you'd notice a speck of dust on the side of the road. Harold's lips begin to tremble violently. He claps both hands over his chest, lets out a raw, agonized cry of despair. Then his eyes roll back, and he crumples straight down into his own pile of rotting, sour-smelling apples. Harold has suffered a stroke. By the time Greenflow AgriCorp's legal team arrives at the village, he is still lying in his crumbling home. Manager Victor storms back with his debt collection crew and court summons, blocking the village entrance. The irrigation pipeline in the fields has already been ripped out as partial repayment, but it barely dents the alleged 500,000 yuan penalty. This time, Manager Victor bears the greediest fangs of corporate predation. He slams down a thick stack of land use transfer and mortgage agreements and forces every villager to sign. Can't pay cash? Then hand over your orchard land rights. Sign here, and these hundreds of acres belong to Greenflow. You can either get out of the village or stay on as our daily wage laborers. Hundreds of villagers go pale as ash. The elderly collapse to the ground, wailing. Without their land, they have nothing. Aunt Rosa clutches her family's land deed with both hands, sobbing so hard it sounds like she's tearing apart. Chief, we can't sign. If we sign, we're finished. Homeless beggars, we can't do it. I'd rather give up my life than sign this away. Everyone follow me to the city. We go to Eli Stone. Yes, right now. She's the only one in this world who can save us. When there is nothing left, pride means nothing. Dozens of village representatives pool together their last coins for bus fare, rent 2 battered open-bed trucks, and ride 3-bone to rattling hours through the bitter autumn wind to reach the gates of my Sky Eye Agri-Tech group on the outskirts of the city. Eli, MS Stone, we've come to kneel at your feet. When my assistant rushes in to tell me what the security cameras are showing, I'm sitting in the conference room reviewing the province-wide agricultural weather report. I walk to the floor-to-ceiling window and look down at the group outside the gate, every single one of them kneeling on the asphalt. Their foreheads press against the cold pavement. The greed that once drove them has been ground to dust by reality. I pull on my coat, take Legal Director Zhang and a few security personnel, and push open the grand electric gates. When they see me step out, the village chief rises to his feet, tears streaming down his weathered face. Eli, we know we were wrong. Harold and that crooked company bled us dry. Now we're about to lose even the land. Please save the village. We'll work ourselves to the bone for you. Just save the land. I look at him. Chief, the day you all pressed your red fingerprints and drove me out, I said something. Every soul reaps what it sows. You chased a false bargain and handed your entire village's lifeline over to con artists. You didn't just destroy what I built, you destroyed your own future. This bitter outcome is yours to swallow. But my ancestors are buried in that land. My father is buried there. I, Eli Stone, can turn my back on Harold's side of the family, but I cannot watch the village that raised me get bled dry by a pack of wolves dressed up as tech entrepreneurs. Doing charity. I'm a businesswoman. If I step in, I make the rules, every last one of them. I turn to Legal Director Zhang. Get the convoy. Bring every file and piece of evidence. We're going back to the village. Today, I want to see who dares touch my home ground. 1 hour later, 5 black SUVs roll in with an air of absolute authority, sweeping into the village committee compound and boxing in Manager Victor's debt collection convoy. The door swings open. I step out in a sharp suit, 2 equally sharp attorneys at my back. Manager Victor freezes for a split second, then recognizes me, the rising star of the province's agriculture world. His expression shifts, but he forces a steady smile and walks over. Well, if it isn't Emma Stone from Sky Eye Group, returning in triumph, I see. But today is Greenflow's lawful debt collection day. Are you here to interfere with due legal process? Collect debt? Zhang, read it to him. Legal Director Zhang steps forward. Per the official findings of the Provincial Quality and Technical Supervision Bureau, the so-called smart IoT water pump your company sold to this village contains a refurbished, discarded industrial motor on the inside. Its rated power output is falsely inflated by 300%. It has never obtained China compulsory certification, a complete and total counterfeit. That's a lie. We have a contract. A contract? I let out a cold laugh. Given that your company sold a substandard product under false advertising, executed a shadow contract, and illegally added hidden fees, you are under serious suspicion of commercial fraud. Sky Eye Group has formally filed a complaint with the Municipal Economic Crimes Unit on behalf of every villager here. Legal Director Zhang adds, and let me be clear, my legal team will pursue this case to the very end, until every layer of your operation is exposed and your company's legal representative is behind bars. Now, take your people and get out of my village. Manager Victor looks at the battle-ready legal team behind me, then at the villagers, who have found their backbone again and are now clenching their fists. He knows he's hit solid steel this time. Without another word, he leads his debt collection crew skulking out of the village in defeat. The entire compound erupts. Thunderous cries, cheers, and sobs all at once. Countless villagers bow deeply in my direction. This time the gratitude in their eyes is completely pure. Driving out Greenflow only solves the immediate crisis. To truly bring this land back to life, everything has to be torn down and rebuilt from scratch. The next day, Sky Eye Agritech Group's engineering convoy rolls into the village. They bring brand new large-bore irrigation pipeline network built to the highest standard, and they bring back the old traditional motor I took with me when I left, now upgraded by my farm's technical team. It has been fitted with a genuine variable frequency drive system. As the old motor rumbles back to life with a steady, powerful hum, water surges through the brand new pipeline network. When it hits the cracked, parched orchard soil, the whole village stands at the edge of the fields, letting the water splash their faces, crying like children. But this water is no longer a free lunch. The water flows, but the old ways are gone. The days of me footing every bill and doing all the work while everyone else reaps the rewards, those days are over, for good. Starting today, Sky Eye Group takes full control of the village's water infrastructure. Water fees are charged at the lowest market cost rate. Not a cent more, not a cent less. At the same time, anyone who chooses to join my eco-supply chain is welcome. I provide free technical guidance and quality seedlings. There is exactly one requirement: you follow Sky Eye's pesticide-free cultivation standards. Strictly, no unauthorized pesticides or chemical fertilizers. Period. Grow quality produce, and every autumn Sky Eye Group buys your entire harvest at 20% above market price. But if anyone cuts corners, damages this village's reputation, they are out of the partnership immediately, permanently. No charity, only partnership, no handholding, only rules. This is the most genuine respect I can give them, and the only rescue that lasts. The village chief's hands tremble as he becomes the first to solemnly sign the cooperation agreement and press down his red fingerprint. Eli, you gave this whole village a second life. From now on, every single person here follows your lead. Anyone who dares betray you again, I'll break their legs myself. Hundreds of villagers line up in an orderly queue, no pushing, no complaints. Every face carries the same expression: awe, gratitude, and hope for a new beginning. That day, red fingerprints fill the agreement, sealing a covenant of rebirth for an entire village. 3 years later, the once-in-a-century drought is a distant memory. The dying, hollowed-out village that once nearly got bled dry by corporate predators is unrecognizable now. Every patch of wasteland, every dead tree has been cleared away, replaced by standardized terraced orchards laid out under Sky Eye Group's master plan. When spring arrives, the hillsides explode in clouds of peach and pear blossoms. By autumn, branches bow under the weight of premium fruit, filling the air with an intoxicating sweetness. Through Sky Eye Group's premium cold chain logistics network, the village's produce reaches high-end retail chains in major cities across the country. Villagers' incomes have multiplied 5 times over. Young people who left for factory jobs come streaming back home. Family after family tears down the old and builds new houses, buys cars. Laughter fills the village every single day. And in front of the newly expanded, impressively built modern pump station at the village entrance, the villagers pool their own money to erect a tall blue stone stele. No hollow praise is carved into it. Just 8 characters: remember the source. Stand on trust. Build anew. This is a village's confession, carved into stone, and the greatest tribute they could ever give me. One evening in early autumn, I drive back to the village myself to check on this year's harvest. The moment my car passes through the entrance, I'm surrounded by warm, familiar faces. Aunt Rosa forces a basket of the biggest, reddest, freshly picked apples into my trunk, eyes glistening as she holds my hand. Try one. This year's fruit is so sweet. None of this would exist without you. How could we ever have a life like this? I smile and take the apple, trading warm greetings with everyone, letting the long-missed feeling of home wash over me. But as I pass a crumbling stretch of red brick ruins at the far end of the village, I spot a familiar silhouette. Uncle Harold. He sits in a rusted, broken-down wheelchair, filthy from head to toe, clutching a chipped, cracked bowl. His wife left him. Derek is still in prison. After the stroke left him paralyzed, he survives on the small monthly welfare stipend the village scrapes together for him, barely enough to keep him alive. His mouth droops to one side. His clouded eyes are fixed on the joyful celebration all around him. This is the man who once tried to drag an entire village into ruin for 100,000 yuan. Now the whole village thrives under my leadership, moving toward shared prosperity. He alone is permanently locked outside of it, shut out from everything he destroyed. That is the most brutal and most just punishment he could ever receive. I don't stop. I press the gas and the car rolls smoothly past the ruins. Outside the window, the scent of fruit from the hillsides drifts in on the evening wind. Looking out at this land, so alive, so full, my heart feels a calm and a fullness it has never known before. A truly powerful person does not crush their enemies in the mud. They rise above it, set new rules, use absolute strength to demolish every lie, and use an expansive vision to rebuild the soul of a place. This land, heavy with fruit, has finally found its rightful path forward, and I, carrying the weight of this responsibility, am walking toward an even wider horizon.